Let's go. As a reminder here, we will determine whether Zerg will live on into the semifinals or whether Zerg gets snuffed out here in the quarterfinals.
The quarterfinal. That sounds so much cooler than round 2. I like it. And then what do you have, like the 8th final? Or the round of 16th final? But anyways, here we go. Like spawning in the top right position of Glittering Ashes, which I sometimes think is hardwire. It is your Hong Kong Protoss player representing Juggernauts. I'm getting so good at this, aren't I? It's Bistork.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner.
Uh-oh.
As we get a bit of a pause, hopefully everything is okay. You know, maybe some Uber Eats is knocking on the door.
Yeah, it could be dinner time. You never know. But yeah, here we go. I guess we just okay, get back to introduction now.
Yeah. We're not refs, so they're gonna have to. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, they figured it out.
Spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Glittering Ashes LE, we have our Finnish Zerg player, an ex-SDO player from back in the day. It's great to see him back in full form, representing Gova Esports. It is Mixu.
And here we see the probe light. Do you know what this means?
Oh, it means that Bistork sees that there's a natural.
It also means this is annoying.
But not as annoying because, you know what? He didn't force the unnatural natural.
No, he did not actually. As we see, we have got a regular natural and unnatural.
True. Is this now unnatural?
Light. We have a forge coming before the gate. Is that natural?
It's natural for Protoss, mate. What are you talking about? Let's go. Pylon is being thrown out. This is going to be scattered, though, because Mixu does have an Overlord above this natural base. So, again, Bistork did go for a gate forge opening. It does mean that the forge is a little bit later, so this is what Startup calls a macro cannon rush coming out from our Protoss.
Yeah, indeed. And this is something, it's something because you think there's no way this is a real cannon rush because it's so late, right? But that's kind of the point. As we see a bit of micro from Bistork, that cannon is fully protected, but we also see 2 spines down immediately. That tells Bistork to throw down another cannon because Mixu wants to hold this.
Yeah, you say 1, Bistork says 3. Let's go. He throws down 3 more cannons. Oh god, one of them is going to be cancelled, and maybe even the second. As Bistork is going to try and throw down another cannon before the creep does get too close. But these 2 spines, is it going to be enough?
I'm not sure. The thing is, the cannons finish up faster than spine crawlers do, and with these lings, however, I think even though he can't get surface area on this cannon, I think he is going to be able to actually hold it.
Oh yeah, beautifully done here by Mixu, and this is totally worth it. Sure, Mixu, there was a lot of lost mining time. Sure, he had to invest into 2 spines, but what was that? 3 cannons, 3 pylons as well, and he holds onto his base. Damn.
Yeah, it's fantastic actually. We have to keep in mind too, these spines, they're not sunk minerals like the pylons and cannons, right? They can be useful later on in the game, and even though he's forced to make a couple of spines not ideal, the lings are going to sneak in, however, and there's actually going to be more lings than just 2.
Oh my god, 6 lings do get into the main base. Unfortunately, Bistork, he was a little bit distracted by that. Overlord did pull that Stalker away. These lings shouldn't get too much damage done here. The micro should be good. Bistork, you better not lose any probes. Up. Ooh.
No. Up. 1 probe going down. 2. Oh my days, and this is just annoying for the Terran players too, is it? Sorry, the Protoss players.
Yeah, Terrans are very annoyed right now, yes.
Exactly.
Oh god, but it wasn't just the economic damage, right? It wasn't just the annoyance, but quickly looking at the vision of Mixu, he did also scout the Stargate with his lings as well. So despite losing that Spotter Overlord, he was able to get a scout of what Bistork was going for next.
Yeah, indeed, and we got a Void Ray will be appearing. A deck coming across the map too, and normally, these 2 spines will be able to deal with this quite easily since he lost the lings, but Adept Shades are pretty annoying, so you might be forced, 4 more lings just started right now as he notices it. Bistork, will he commit here or will he just cancel? But it looks like he's going to cancel.
Yeah, does cancel it just in time. Doesn't want to throw away his Adept Not Yet. Meanwhile, interesting, Bistork, despite opening up with a Stargate, he is not going double Stargate Void Ray. He makes the initial Void Ray to clear out Overlords and goes straight into a Twilight Council instead.
Twilight Council indeedly do. So we're not going to see any Sky Toss, quite thankfully. Let's see, what do you expect to come here? Do you think we're going to see some Glaive Adepts?
Maybe
I'm so smart, like...
Maybe some Blink, maybe some Charge. I mean, but
yeah, this Void, it's getting deep. Ooh.
Oh yeah, taking a lot of hull damage there. Was it worth it? I mean, Void Ray did survive, so he does get that Overlord. But as you were saying, it is going to be Glaive Adepts coming out here from Bistork. So far, this has gone unscouted, but Mixu does have that one hidden Overlord towards the south.
Yeah, he does indeed. It has snuck by, and these Lings can get a perfect kind of scout off in the timing of this, the third base. See just two Adepts chilling, not enough to kind of tell what is going on, especially because he's just kind of chilling off one gateway at the moment. And we see the extra gateways being added in, but will they be finished in time for Glaive Adepts to finish here, Light? Or...
Yeah, it looks a little bit mistimed, just a little bit here, but we'll see. We'll see how Bistork is able to execute this. Again, this Overlord isn't really going into the main base. Unfortunately, the lair is still in production, so there's no Overseer Scout on the horizon here, so maybe he can catch Mixu a little bit off guard with these Glaive Adepts.
It is possible, as we see he is droning away. No gas is taken at the natural so far for Bistork. He's just kind of, you know, not going to tech into anything too heavily at the moment as he secures his third base. With his two extra Adepts being noticed now, he might think that's possible something's going on, but it's still, you know, if he saw these extra two coming now, he'd know for sure, but
yeah,
he's making Lings anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a tell because Glaives is done, and the Adepts did just reveal their auto attack. So Mixu should have noticed that, and he should be aware that Glaives is completed. So here we go, Lings are on the way. He's still droning up a little bit though, so I don't know.
Yeah, actually, there's quite a few Adepts in the field, and keep in mind there is no Warp Prism, so normally when we see these kind of moves out, it's just to kind of pressure keep the Zerg on their toes, but we see, you know, if he thinks there's an opportunity to jump on here, he might go for it.
Oh yeah, meanwhile the Adepts are headed towards that third base. We should see a full wall here at the natural as the Adepts do attempt to shade in, but no, they are met with a complete wall.
Yeah, and a nice little wall there. These Adepts now against the wall, but as the Roaches pop out now, I think this is not going to be a great trade at all for Bistork. He's going to get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Very nice kind of crisis management by Mixu, able to get ready in time. Meanwhile, Void Ray rocks up. Oh no, the Void Ray is going to get sniped, and the reinforcing Adepts aren't really going to make much of a difference here at all. He's going to try and shade back in, and the wall is not a wall, but there are plenty of Roaches.
Yeah, I think it's just a shade to give him a bit of breathing room, force the Roaches back, as we know they're not as mobile as those Zerglings. But now looking at, I like this choice from Mixer to go the Spire, because he's got double Void Ray, because he's seen so many Roaches on the ground, you know, to keep him safe, to secure this third base, as the gases get taken a third. And a Muta switch here could just really mess up Bistork and mess up his day.
It could win the game, mate. It could be.
It could indeed win the game.
Oh my god, Mixu's already getting fully saturated on 4 bases, 73 drones. That's not a bad drone count whatsoever. He's not too far off from that 80. And he also confirmed that, again, Void Rays are being produced, which isn't the most ideal unit, especially against a mass Muta switch that I'm sure Mixu is going to be waiting for. I mean, there is the option, I guess, if he wanted to go into Corruptors, but I mean, Mutas, I feel like, are what we're really looking for.
Yeah, and I really don't like this this finish shade here by Bistork, especially knowing how many Roaches are on the field. It might just be, I guess, to you know, force them to stay home, because we know if the Queen walk, you can't really punish, I guess, Void Rays as well when you go with this Roach Queen style. But as we see with that Spire coming, and we see even a transition, oh, second Starport, sorry, second Stargate and a Fleet Beacon. I think this could catch our Protoss player off guard, but we don't see any Mutas yet.
Yeah, we're still waiting a little bit here, you know, the Spire is completed, and we have a massive bank of minerals and gas. Maybe we're waiting for, never mind, we're waiting for 10 more drones, actually. Okay, Mixu is going to need to make a couple more Overlords, though, as he is close to getting that supply block.
Yep, that base does get cancelled indeed. There's the 7 Mutas we have. 7's kind of a, it's a, I don't say it's a perfect number of mutas, but it's a very good number if you're just going for a little switch. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't make more than just 7. As we see now, we got ground upgrades, Ling Bane. We've got Bane speed on the way, but we got carriers on the side of Bistork, and I think there's going to be a small window here. We've got cannons kind of in the natural mineral line actually. But these mutas, I'm not sure how much damage they will actually do here.
Yeah, like the window for them to deal damage, it feels like it may have closed already. We'll see though, maybe we're being a little bit too hasty in that judgment. What I will say is that thankfully, you know, we do already have that Spire, so going into Corruptors to help deal with carriers shouldn't be, you know, too far off out of the realm of possibility. Meanwhile, mutas show up and they're gonna get some workers, but need more than 2.
Yeah, we do indeed, and here we go, 5. Keep in mind that the Void Rays are out to push these mutas away. They can't engage it straight up, but I guess Bistork won't be happy knowing there's a spy actually on the field already, especially when Mixu sees these carriers. But as we see, 8, 9 workers, 10, not too bad. Pretty reasonable, as we see a second spy and a greater spy on the way too.
Oh yeah, here we go, as all the mutas do get cleaned up, but they did kind of pay for themselves. They did kind of force a reaction as well. 10 probes isn't too bad whatsoever, and we are going to be seeing that kind of late game composition, Corruptors, Brood Lords, our Spellcasters as well. Mixu's working on it, but he also has to kind of clear up some supply because he does have quite a bit of Lingbane Roach still remaining.
Yeah, indeed, I like to see him get rid of these roaches, really. They're kind of, their time to shine in this game is past. The Banelings, however, Banelings can be a really supply efficient unit. You know, you can have the supply of 1 roach, or you can have the supply of 4 Banelings, and even though it'll be a bit more expensive, but at this stage of the game, no expense, you know, you can just go all out. The Queens, however, we see a run by in the natural. He's actually going to break in, wow, and at the same time, Bistork's moving out.
Yeah, I'm really worried about this move out, but oh my god, is Bistork really going to turn around just for these Lings? Ay, ay, ay. I was about to say, we don't have a lot of anti-air for Mixu. He doesn't have any Corruptors, he has some Spellcasters, but he's relying really on these Queens to defend against the Sky Toss. So now would be a great opportunity for Bistork, but now 7 Corruptors are on the way. If Bistork hadn't turned around, maybe if he was a little bit more decisive, maybe he would have been able to deal some more damage. He still can though, he still can.
Actually, I think he might, if he catches these Queens, these carriers can really mess up the AI here, but just with those upgrades and the Infestors pumping with the Microbial Shroud should buy enough time for these Corruptors and Vipers to get into position. I'd say maybe just snipe this base and then recall home, but at the moment, that 4th base, so many workers going down for the Protoss.
Oh my god, the Bane run by was insane, almost even takes out the Nexus, so we do trade base for base, but the difference is that Bistork also lost probes.
Yeah, that's it. And Zerg, you know, still on many bases, the economy's still at 84 workers, and as we see, like, you know, just 12 drones. Zerg pretty good race. Even I will admit that in a situation like this. But if we look at even though, like, you know, you see carriers, you see Void Rays, the thing is, you kind of want some High Templar behind this, because it's a very kind of High Templar are a great unit. Archons also, but you have to keep in mind with Infestors, Queens, and Vipers, you need some sort of way to mitigate the damage that they can give you.
Exactly, feedbacks are king. Even though Storm isn't researched, like, High Templar can still play their role. Meanwhile, the Void Rays are about to rock up, and a lot of the Corruptors are morphed into Brood Lords. Oh no, the Brood Lords are all caught out.
Yeah, the Brood Lords are isolated. The Queens are getting caught with these Zealots. Good target fire on the Queens by Bistork, and this could be the fight that Bistork was looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Again, very little Corruptors. Meanwhile, the Parasitic Bomb does a massive amount of damage on those Void Rays, but the Carriers reign supreme, and Bistork is going to be able to clean all of this up. The Infestors go down. A lot of the Vipers went down as well.
Yeah, indeed. As we say, there's only a couple of carriers left, but in these low numbers, carriers really thrive, and we see roaches being made in Corruptors as well. I think Mixu may be able to just clean this up barely, which, you know, that was a scary moment for our finish, so.
It really was. Like, again, we saw how greedy he was being, morphing every single one of his Corruptors into Brood Lords. He just had very little anti-air remaining, but as you said, with these reinforcements, he will be able to force all this back, and that may have been the one and only push from Bistork. Like, recovering from this is so difficult as a Protoss player.
It is indeed, as we see these carriers getting shut down, and immediately we have that anti kind of corruptor squad for the Protoss. We've got Archons, we've got High Templar, we have got everything Void Rays as well being churned out 3 at a time, and meanwhile more Infestors coming for our Zerg, and it looks like we're gonna have a moment of calm. But I do have to say, even though Mixu's in quite a commanding position up that cleanup, these roaches, they're not going to scale too well. He needs to throw those away.
I was about to say, like, we've all been there. In the defense, he made panic roaches to deal with the Archons. It's understandable. It isn't ideal, but he needed something to help clean up all those Archons, so he went for roaches, but arguably made too many of them. Now he's kind of stuck with them, and he's got to find some way to trade efficiently with them, because ideally you don't want to just throw them away.
Yeah, and as we see, Zealot by the bottom here, there's good spawn position by Mixu. I do have to say, these three are covered quite well. Bistork's just going to jump on the base. That's the correct decision. These roaches, however, useful given the game situation as well. But with so many Broodlords now on the field and newer research, Bistork, it's starting to look a bit tough for him.
Really is. Like, he's making use of his units any which way they can, right? He almost sniped the base towards the bottom right. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a follow-up Zealot run by here just to snipe that hatchery. Was even being active with these Void Rays and Archons, but again, he that's to even see a yoink there. Does he actually want to force a fight? Okay, you gotta calm down, buddy. But like, we still don't really have an ideal army from Bistork. It's just pure Archon Void Ray.
Yeah, and the problem with these units is they're not the most microable against what the Zerg has, and the ultimate kind of crux here for our Zerg player is having both Broodlords as well with Infestors and Vipers. That's 3 things, but Infestor Viper against Mass Void Rays. It's the reason you see the carrier transition, because Void Rays just aren't too good when they get fungal and parasitic bomb. They're quite poor actually. Void Rays being poor, you heard it here first. Controversial opinion. But
they have their role, but their role is not here and now at this stage of the game, right? Like, it's great to have some of them, but you don't need all of them, if that makes sense. And Bistork, he's well aware of that as well. He is refining his army even further. He now finally has Storm on the way as well. And because of the lull in the game, like, Bistork is being given time to remax and rebuild.
Yeah, indeed. And we see those Void Rays, which were initially, chosen in case of a Roach counterattack. As you said, they're not useless. They do have their role, and their role is still very good this late on. It's just Bistork, we need to be very careful with how he engages. But as you said, Mixu doesn't have the most bases. The creep spread's a little bit muted. But we have, if Bistork can hold this 12 o'clock base, he could maybe work his way back into this game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Roaches, they're going to be able to take out a little bit of the stack defense. The rest of the army does respond in kind. Bistork was actually in the middle of pushing out towards the bottom right, so this is a great move by Mixu. Again, trading out these Roaches in a pretty great way. It's great how he was able to conserve them until now to make them in some way pay for themselves. And we were focusing a lot on Bistork, and now he's been refining his army, but now we even have Ultras on the way for Mixu.
Yeah, and I really like this choice by Mixu actually. You recognise, you've got, even though there's a reasonable number of Void Rays out, you've got your Spellcaster to deal with them. There's not many Immortals on the ground, and those High Templar, they're higher in number, but Archons won't last forever against Ultras, and there's only one Immortal to deal with them. So great tech choice here by our Finnish Zerg.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be Mixu's, basically his priority to try and take down all these High Templar with said ground army, with his Broodlords, with his Ultras. Is it going to be enough though? Immediately one base goes down, but Mixu did a great job at evacuating it before it happened. And meanwhile, here we go, the Storms do connect on the army.
Yeah, I don't think Bistork, now he's got these 2 bases, needs to commit here. I'd just like to see him back off, maybe being a bit risky here, but there's not really much point to push in. And as you see, a fungal and a parasitic bomb as well on the Voids, and I'd really like to see a recall out of this position.
Oh god, yeah, he needs to get the hell out of here. There we go, we finally do have that recall. Does catch the majority of the army, but so many High Templar just got picked off.
Yeah, unfortunate. We see no shields, and he's forced to kind of try and protect the remnants of the rest of his army, but meanwhile, On the bottom right position, you know, as his attention's focused at the top, this base could be in a bit of jeopardy.
Oh yeah, let's go. The roaches are back. The last remaining roaches from that kind of middle like fight that we did see alongside Ultras, alongside Bailey's gonna crash into this Nexus. It's low from earlier. The Nexus itself may fall.
The Nexus may fall indeed, and there's nothing really to defend this, and Zealot's being warped in to protect. But it does not look like they'll be able to hold on these voids. Maybe I'll just snipe an Ultra or two. Actually, I might save the base, actually. Like,
wow, the Nexus does not go down at the same time. Corruptors do rock up. Do Caustic spray down the cannon, question mark? I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know if that was a misclick. But that does mean that the Nexus will survive.
Nexus does survive indeed. And even this Nexus at the top. And, some great feedback. Quick turn into a Viper Archon.
I'm a little bit worried because, yo, we need the Corruptors here and now. There we go. They do turn around, bearing in mind that all those Vipers were feedback, but who needs Vipers when you have Fungals?
Yeah, indeed. And there's only, you know, because that earlier fight, there's only 5 Void Rays here, and their beam's already been popped. So with these Corruptors coming to reinforce, I'd like to see him snipe the base. I don't think recall is available yet, but yeah, just back out here. And Bistork, man, he's playing pretty reasonably given the resources he has.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, the Archons morph in just in time as well. Corruptors cannot get anywhere close to this army, and now the spellcasters have to be rebuilt. A lot of the infestors went down in that engagement as well. There's only one infestor remaining.
One infestor indeed. These Vipers sucking up this extractor. This infestor just kind of chilling out really, but we see Zealots to the north. This base is not protected as he pushes in the middle. The voids are exposed. The
voids are a little bit exposed. The Brood Lords are exposed as well. In come the Vipers. They do let no. They don't get any of the spells off.
They don't. These Archons, you know, just a couple volleys on the Corruptors could do some damage, but that base does get saved.
Oh, what? Somehow, someway, the base and the infestor survives. Let's go. But at the same time, we have a bit of a Zealot run by. It is going to get cleaned up, and now Mixu, I think he smells blood in the water. He does dive on top of those Corruptors. Sorry, he dives on top of the carriers with his Corruptors.
He does, and the Archon's trying to zone them away, but they're not going to be able to do enough, and that's going to be the trigger to go. We see the Broodlords encroaching from below, and even though there's more Archons and 3 Voids at a time, he's on top of the Stargate slide, and this is never a good position if you're a Protoss going Skytoss.
Oh god, exactly. Meanwhile, do we have a real answer for all of these Broodlords? They are very exposed, but Archons aren't the best unit to really close the distance and get on top of them. Meanwhile, the Corruptors, they are in the midst of escaping. Oh, they do take 1 Archon volley to the face, but only 1. And they will be able to escape.
Yeah, and if we look at the economic situation, you know, Bistork, he's been dropped down to 5 bases, but Zerg also is only really on a you know, 5 or 6 bases, really 3 mining bases to be honest. And if he can hold on, but it's just you know, way easier said than done, as he's added Stalkers to his army now, which you do not want at this stage of the game. This Ultra Broodlord Infestor, you know?
They're the equivalent of making a wave of panic roaches.
Exactly.
Oh, God. Here we go. Meanwhile, Overdrive is going to try and keep this Nexus. Once again, the Nexus will survive. Meanwhile, a couple of these Ultras are going to get picked off in the retreat. At the same time, Zealot run by towards the bottom right. Those crucial bases are getting sniped. Now, Mixu down to maybe like 2.5 mining bases. I still can't believe this hatchery's alive, by the way.
Yeah, I reckon. Great little moves here by Bistork, because he recognizes that these Corruptors can't really defend. They're going to be pushed back, but Mixu's got full dominance of the skies. This Warp Prism is going to have to be careful. It was made to actually ferry out the Immortal, which got stuck at the robot, the natural.
Yeah,
but just looking at, we see Mixu. He's kind of adding in Queens now. There's a couple more Corruptors, but Cracklings at this stage of the game, man, they're cracked.
Oh, they're pretty cracked, especially against Blink Stalkers. I don't know why the hell we had another warping of those Blink Stalkers. Meanwhile, Fungal does connect with this army as well. It looks like Mixu has caught this with those Broodlords, and there is no answer. There's nothing in the air. There can't be anything in the air because of all these Corruptors.
Yeah, no, there's not indeed. We see as Bistork, he may try to blink under these Broodlords.
Oh, he has blink now!
Oh, he doesn't? Oh, he doesn't blink. But yeah, he just can't deal with the superior tech of the Zerg army. He played very well, however, but now half the supply, and the writing seems to now finally be on the wall.
Yeah, it's been an insane 23 minutes of ZVP back and forth. Bistork had some moments of brilliance, but there were a couple of engagements that just barely didn't go his way, and Mixu, he's been able to rebuild his Broodlord Infestor army. Bistork was kind of knocked back down to the Stone Age into Blinkstalker Archon.
Yeah, he was too, and he's managed to secure this middle base again, but it's just a little bit too late now as these Stalkers, they're not very specialized to deal with this kind of insane Link Bane run by even with Blink, as we see these probes under threat again. Great kind of Archon drop to the north. You don't see that very often in the 24th minute, but it's just... Yeah, these Corruptors, it's not... It's not for this world, is it?
Yeah, exactly. The War Prison does get picked up. At the same time, the Ling Run by is still wreaking havoc. There are even some borrowed Lings here, being a little bit cheeky. Oh god, as they are going to pop out as soon as this place gets resaturated. And Bistork, I just don't know what he can do from here. He just doesn't really have an economy. Like there's one probe mining here in the mineral line. This base here on the right, it just can't get any workers going either.
Yeah, it looks like Mixu he's fully taking control of this game. Ling run by the position's been compromised for Bistork at both sides of the map. He's lost his kind of cannons, and these units are forced to deal with it. They're just so much less mobile. As Mixu now, as he establishes more bases, Bistork tries in vain for more Zealot run-bys, but this army that Zerg has is formidable AF. Like,
oh yeah, exactly. Couldn't have put it better myself, Chase. Very well done. Oh god, as here we go. Bistork is going to try for one last hurrah. Meanwhile, the Blinding Clouds and the Fungals are just too damn good. The army gets locked down for Bistork, and the Broodlords are looking to just wipe everything clean. Oh my god, even has a neural!
It is indeed light, and GG is called. Mixu will take a very captivating and exciting game number 1. But Bistork, he can bring it back. He played just as well, I'd say. Well, not just as well. Then he would have, would have been a draw. But he played well too.
Yeah, definitely. Meanwhile, oh my god, I didn't even know. Chase.
Yes.
Okay, no, you scared me for a moment.
What did I do?
GSL wasn't today, right?
No. Today is actually the Good Game Cup.
Oh, okay, nice. All right.
Yeah, but GSL I believe maybe tomorrow. Not sure, but I'm sure we'll be tuning in for one reason or another. But as we go into game number 2, this is a map you don't see all that often, I guess, in this matchup. Pride of Altaris. It used to be a lot more popular, but I guess I haven't seen it as often for the CVP.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, this map used to be quite popular, and then people started taking the goal bases, and Protoss players started taking the goal bases, and then, then Zerg were like, you know what, we don't want to mess with this, we don't want to try. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. It's always a great treat to see some of these more vetoed maps on display.
Yeah, for sure. And this time, unfortunately for Bistork, this will be on Central, so slight advantage to our Mixu server-wise, but we see, normally we do see players take gold bases quite more often, but it does lead to wackier games, but I'm not too sure if either of these players will vie for the gold early on. But here we go. I digress, spawning the bottom right position. Currently down 1-0 at the moment. It's the pink Protoss player playing for Juggernauts from Hong Kong. It is Bistork.
And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Pride of Altaris LE, we have the Finnish Zerg player himself representing Kova Esports. It is Mixu. Hello, probe.
Oh, it's attack moved probe. Look at this. He's angry.
He's upset.
Like, when you go for an angry walk.
I have never gone for an angry walk, man.
Sure, you have. We all have.
What?
But yeah, I guess he's going to change from attack move. Yeah, he's move command once he sees the natural. He's feeling a bit better, knowing nothing jittery is going on.
Are you angry that you're walking, or are you walking because you're angry?
You're not gonna let it go. You're walking because you're angry. I don't know why you're angry because maybe if your car breaks down or something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure.
God.
I think probes have.
You know who was angry walking? That immortal that was left behind by the war prison. Nah, he was angry walking, mate.
It wasn't even walking. It got stuck.
It's angry standing, mate.
Angry standing.
Oh
Oh
god.
man. But yeah, here we. And bloody hell.
Yeah, here we've reached that portion of the broadcast where we're gonna start talking about Twilight. We're gonna.
I was thinking, I was like, at least this isn't Twilight so far, but you've name dropped first, I'll name drop too. But, every time I see an attack moving unit, I'm just gonna think it's angry.
Exactly. Speaking of angry, we do see some worker on worker action here, but Bistork will be thwarted. He'll be pushed back. Again, he's just confirming, okay, there's no early gases, no early Roach Warren, as some Zerg players would get. And eventually this probe will be cleaned up.
Yeah, speaking of worker on worker action, that can sound a bit wrong in different contexts, but correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if you know this, but I believe in the initial StarCraft 2 beta, SCVs had 60 health, just like Brood War. But it got nerfed quite quickly. I don't know if anyone in the chat can verify that, but can you imagine Marine SCV all-ins with 60 hate point SCVs?
That sounds terrifying. That sounds like hashtag not my StarCraft. Oh my god. Thankfully that's not the world that we live in, but yeah, it's very interesting how the worker dynamics are a little bit different between all the races. You know, we have shields for one, regen for the other, repair for the other. Obviously the SCV is the strongest. But speaking of the strongest, mate, we don't have a Stargate opener.
Yeah, instead we have a Glaive Adept opener, and this is something a little cute, something probably wouldn't see quite so fast. Mixu, if he crosses his T's and dots his I's, he should know that the warp gate timing will reflect that is a possibility. But we see actually we've got 4 gate Adept, so this was very prevalent in the meta earlier. This Stalker patrolling as well, and I think that. Yeah, I don't think Mixu's going to be able to scout this before it hits.
Yeah, this is a little bit scary because Mixu just hasn't gone in, and there's no reason for him not to, right? Obviously, he knows it's not a Stargate opener because there's no Void Ray Achilles Overlord, but there's no Stalker to deny a scout either. So Mixu slipping up a little bit here, and this may catch him off guard. As a reminder, this is going to hit pretty. This is a pretty interesting build, just because there's still no Robo either, so there's no Warp Prism to help reinforce across the map.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, this looks exactly like a kind of standard open with the 2 Adepts, but Mixu here is being very diligent, forcing out the pylon before the Nexus to keep these Adepts, safe from the Lings. But yeah, this little swell of Lings being quite handy, and actually, we see 2 Stargates following up. Right?
I love it. So quite often when you see a Glaive Adept opener, there is typically a transition, but because there's a Robo, you see like an Immortal transition because you're forcing out Roaches. But no, because there is no Robo, because Bistork was saving his gas, this is what he was saving his gas for. It was for a double Stargate Void Ray transition, which is another great way to deal with Roaches.
Indeed, it is too, and these Lings, they've got to see there's no third base now if he dips in still, and he does see that, Mixu does, and Roaches and Lings coming back at home, but we see extra gases at the natural added for Bistork, and we know his plan to this move out.
Oh yeah, exactly. The first Queen goes down. There was no energy for Transfuse. Does commit to the Shade into the natural base. Workers are falling left and right here. 4 drones already going down. This will eventually be cleaned up, but again, the transition is on the way. Bistork should be working on those voids.
Yeah, unfortunately we see no Void Rage just yet for Bistork, and he's floating. He's actually going into Phoenix Flight. Phoenix Adept.
What? Is this like a Legacy of the Void, like beta PvT? What's happening?
This is a build that dies to a Roach counter attack.
Oh my! I like it. We were both. Sorry, I was talking about how okay, so his big brain getting ready for the Roach counterattack that is obviously going to come, right? Because it always comes after Adepts. But what? Apparently not.
Yeah, and this is kind of a bit of a sus kind of opening from Bistork because he throws out more Adepts. He's just kind of trying to keep the Zerg busy. Where in time for these Phoenix, I feel like you know, it doesn't really matter when the counterattack comes. It's just when it actually does come, because we see no third base still for Bistork, and he's revealing the Phoenix pretty much straight away.
Yeah, this is a quirky build if I've ever seen one from Bistork. We will see if it works out. He does snipe one of the queens, one stray queen. He's going to dive on some of these overlords, but again, I really am concerned about that roach counterattack once it does come. Adepts show up, but again, there are roaches to deal with them.
Yeah, indeed, good positioning from Mixu, and as we still see, there's no third base for Bistork, and I feel like if you're going for Phoenix, you need, this isn't a game-ending kind of unit composition. It's just one that hopes to get as much damage done economically as possible. And he has got 10 workers, but there we see the Nexus coming down now, but your pressure's ended, and the opponent's just going to drone.
Yeah, and like, where do we go from here is kind of what I want to know, right? Like, we still have nothing but Phoenixes. We don't have a Flea Beacon. We do have a Robo being thrown down, question mark, to maybe still get into those Immortals that he needs to get into. But of course, because maybe he wants to get Disruptors, maybe Colossus, maybe that'll make more sense. Just because of with who Bistork is, I don't know.
Yeah, no, indeed, and we see the Sphinx that are getting a bit of work done, picking up Queen and 2 here. Good spore placement, however, by Mixu, as that Spire does get scouted. But with Roach Speed on the way, I think, once he kind of stabilizes on these 3 bases, we'll probably see a move out, and these Adepts at home and the Phoenix, I don't know how they go against Roaches.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see what he's going to have in store for us as the Robo is about to finish up. And there we go. It is for Immortal production, so no Disruptors. I guess it will take maybe too long to get into those Disruptors, depending on how long it takes for the Roaches to counterattack. So Bistork has to hope and pray that these Roaches stay at home a little bit longer.
Yeah, indeed. And here we see the Phoenix, they are starting to get a little bit battered and bruised, and normally, they'd be going probably Void Rays or carriers behind this, but because of that delayed third base, I don't mind this Corruptor change at all, because you're committed, right? You have to stay on these Phoenix. You can't just start making Void Rays now, because they just don't synergize well, and again, more Adepts coming in to take more workers out, but is he going to commit light? Oh, of course he's committing.
This is very Zest-esque, where he just keeps setting wave after wave of Adepts. The problem is that Zest gets damage done with them, and Bistork, he's really struggling here as he picks up 2 more drones, but they all get cleaned up in the end. Ay. Now there's going to be even less at home to defend. Roach Speed has finished up. Now we have our Corruptors, and again, I feel like we're both just waiting for the moment when Mixu just decides to pull the trigger.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing, like, Bistork, his game plan is kind of revolving around your opponent never pulling the trigger and just being forced to deal with this constant harasses. You find it's going to Immortal production now. He's got 2 Immortals out actually, which is pretty useful, and extra gateways coming down. But really, I don't know. I feel like if Mixu, I just feel like he can just wait for Bistork to take a 4th base and just demolish it, really.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like, Bistork just has a less than ideal army. He is over time getting a better one, don't get me wrong. Forge is on the way for +1. Charge just finished up, so now he can go into Charge Lot Immortal, eventually Charge Lot Archon, and then he'd actually get something done. But until that point, it's like he will be struggling a little bit more, especially with all of these Corruptors, like the Phoenixes, like their kind of time has come and gone, and Bistork is taking that 4th.
He is indeed, he's taking it the gold actually as well. Like, as we see, these Corruptors kind of pushing back these Phoenix. No Phoenix range because we did have that delayed 3rd base opening, which means resources were limited. And these Crab Immortals are just getting in position now. They will be revealed if Mixu's paying attention. If I check his vision, no, he's just kind of big chilling at the gold base. Back up. 50 more Roaches on the way, and here we see, like, these Phoenix, their time is up.
Yep, every single piece is going to get taken out here by these Corruptors, and this is a scary moment because after everything in the air falls, the Corruptors, they can just caustic spray down a Nexus, and what shoots up? We have 4 Stalkers.
Yeah, unfortunately, this kind of a wacky game by Bistork. Thankfully, he has that gold base, but it's so exposed, and as these Roaches come into position, Mixu is doing some great multitasking. But with 4 Immortals, I'll be curious to see if he keeps pumping out Roaches. Kind of just kite these Zealots back there, can't he?
I mean, he does kite back the Zealots. There are only 3 remaining, so soon Mixu will be able to turn around. Meanwhile, the Corruptors are still here in the main base. They can take down another Nexus if they so choose. The Immortal push is going to keep going, but there's just no War Prism to reinforce. Like, it's running out of steam.
Steam indeed, as we see Bistork, his army. One High Templar here with its auto attack. Mortal gets sniped. Great pick there, but you know, with his Warp Prism, maybe a bit of parting, like juggling could be helpful, but it's just way too much for Mixu as he just steamrolls even the Corruptors. Be grabbing them more, but I think we're going to be seeing GG quite soon as Mixu just plays a very dominant game number 2 against Bistork.
Yeah, to be fair, Bistork did help out with that with his very unorthodox build. So, oh my god, as another Nexus falls, Bistork, he is down to only 2 of these Nexuses remaining, and Mixu, he's just gonna waltz his way up into the bases. There's almost nothing left to defend here for Bistork. Again, a very crazy build that he went for. I love that it was something different, but yeah, it wasn't very cohesive. It didn't feel that way anyway.
Yeah, indeed, as we see, I think Bistork's just trying to like process this loss. Specialize with, there we go, GG, and very wacky kind of mind games and build from Bistork game number 2, but Mixu just too solid as he works in to our semi-finals, I believe.
Wow, GG, well played. Congratulations to Mixu as he moves on to those semifinals. Shout out to Bistork because game 1 was insane. Game 2 was a little bit more of a question mark, but game 1 was so back and forth. It went all the way to late game, and this I could see there was a world where Bistork could have taken that game, and we could be seeing ourselves in an ace match. So I hope he's not feeling too upset with his performance here. Good games.
Yeah, for sure. I think Bistork, he does take home the highest placing C player because he did show up. I guess in Starlock did not. But as you said, you know, we just didn't really expect. It didn't seem like there was much cohesiveness with his game plan in game number 2. I guess he really wanted to catch his opponent off guard, but Mixu didn't really. You know, he got his Spore Crawlers, he got his Queens, he Roaches. He just played. I guess the only way you can really put it is solid. And with a build this wacky that tries to throw an opponent off, it's not going to work. So, unfortunate for Bistork, but for sure Mixu did play that pretty well.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful display of Zerg, of European Zerg there by Mixu. GG, well played. We will be seeing him shortly in those lower semis, but before we get there, we are in the upper semis already, as our players have been ready and waiting for us patiently. Here we go.